level of distractions, that we had back then in terms, there was, like, in my time, there was no television, was one radio station, well, social media was one of the farthest thing for anybody in mind that could even be fathomed, and so, times are different, but it's how you tweak every opportunity, because human beings, for the most part, is an adaptable species, and we can adapt, and we create our own changes and adapt to it, because all these changes is us creating it. It's not somebody bestowing that upon us. We go and we create the technology, we create the AIs, we create all of these things. We'll create the robots that work alongside with us and coexist with us, and who knows where that is going to end up, But the point is, we are the brilliant species that is able to do all of these improvements from a technological standpoint. So all this renaissance that we are seeing, we are doing it to ourselves, and we are the one that will have to adapt to it as we go along continuously.
I think the key to everything has to do with balance. Because you hear a lot of people talking about, we're using television to babysit now, but we used to watch television too. I remember...
You listen to radio.
We listen to radio. I remember in the mornings getting ready for school, I had on VH1, and I would be watching TV while I'm getting ready for school. When I come home from school, I turn on the TV, I had to watch G.I. Joe or something like that will come on. But there has to be a balance, because at 5 o'clock, when you're done cool off, you need for out the TV, you need for go do your homework, you need for have your supper or your dinner, and then you go bed and you go to your bed. There's a schedule, there's a balance, But while I'm eating, I didn't have a gadget in front of me where I'm scrolling, and scrolling, I think, is one of the I don't know if they increase the levels of ADHD, our young people, I don't know, but yeah. But anyway, moving on.
It's all a part of the process. And of course, we were talking about BTL because part of the whole technology is being driven by telecom.
Right.
It's driven by that industry in terms of the telephone, the data, the access to information immediately, fingertips, the whole idea to visually be able to see people like FaceTime and those sort of technologies. So the fundamental issue here is that BTL and the whole telecom industry is a very critical part of our history and our growth, especially as we move through the 80s and the 90s, where we saw that extreme explosion in terms of the technological growth within the globe, and then, of course, domestically as well. So, as you rightly mentioned, if you go back to 2004, 5, 6, the whole debacle of BTL was there. It started with the Intelco issue, where you're trying to free up the monopoly situation that existed, the sort of resistance where the company, when country ended up buying it from Mr. Ashcroft, then selling it back to him because the process deal didn't work out and all of that. And in the meantime, you had all the public agitation. And that became a hill that the political party, the People's United Party, died on in 2008, because technically that created the impetus and started to crescendo. So everything became negative thereafter, up until 2008, where they were blown out in the general election. And we saw that saga continue to play out under the UDP. And then finally, in 2009, they sought to nationalize the company. That ended up in 2015 getting a verdict to pay this huge, exorbitant sum of money through some arbitrational structure to the Ashcroft Alliance, compared to when Mr. Ashcroft bought it back from the government for some $57 million. We end up paying almost $600 million in the end. So all that taste continued to remain in people's mouth.
That's why I said the battered wife.
I know you fast forward and we start to talk about it, and then he pops up again and people believe. And then
like there's no getting rid of this guy.
And he always monkey wrench the whole thing the way how back in January-ish or so, when the discussion opened up, the discussion was surrounding around the fact that this was going to happen, and people didn't have all the details, but the chairman of BTL was saying, well, we have this non-disclosure agreement in place, and so we can't disclose too much. He comes out, I don't know how much hours later after that, and he kind of put the whole thing out there, explaining what the deal was going to be, and he kind of segmented himself and said, I only concerned about the issue of Smart, and I don't know about these cable companies, and he kind of threw that whole deal under the bus, that the whole process got sidetracked and then eventually was put on hold for some later determination. But again, he created that problem, and then as he continued to move around and met with certain sectors of the society, he continued to create that level of offense in his discussion, as though he's doing us a favor. There's some charitable thing, as though somebody is begging him for anything.
So that's where the BTL aftermath comes in, William. This is what Henry Usher said in terms of when he was referring to that comment as though, or that idea as though he's giving us at charity price. He was selling Smart at charity price. Could you bring that up, Will, please?
Yeah, let's hear that if you have
the
it, William.
BTL aftermath from it's in today's folder.
In the meantime, while William get it ready. Again, it comes back to the sort of condescending way of how he looks at us. And you know, in conversation, he referred to us as natives and all of these kind of derogatory terms.
But you know, Troy,
so it's a personality.
It lends to the fact that I keep saying we live in a very docile society, a very tamed population. Because you constantly hear, oh, let's boycott Belize Bank. Let's boycott Belize Bank, because they know that, you know,
he's the principal
owner. But who really does that?
Well, it comes back again to this situation.
If we were truly angry, or we truly felt a passion about doing business with this man, period, then we would have done that already. We would have moved over to another bank.
Sometimes I feel that he sees this as a game, and he really wants things to go sour. He likes it to be very, very, very confusing. He likes the chaos. I think when I look at his TV station and how they campaigned against this deal, because they were the ones who were agitating for demonstrations, and so, you know, it's almost as though they were working against the deal, the way how they were reporting the news. So when I look at his TV station, it's like they were building this crescendo to hopefully put people out in the street and creating this uprising as though to inflict pain on the government for some reason or not. That is how I viewed it as a bystander. And so, because I would have felt that their position would have been a little bit more passive in terms, seeing that their boss is the one cutting this deal.
Well, passive or not, for me, I don't think
so.
Any
I think
media...
he wanted to be chaotic. He wanted to get into this legal situation. I think that's where he wants it to go.
But I think that our responsible media should not try to instigate. And I think for a while that's what they were trying to do, instigate some sort of uprising, some sort of riot by very suggestive media reports when it comes to this entire thing, no? So so if, like I was saying, if we were really a serious people when it comes to all of this, look at how many businesses Ashcroft has his hands in Belize. And we support it every day. You have Smart, you have Belize Bank, you have Channel 5, you have Radisson, I think, if I'm not mistaken. There are so many businesses that this man has his hands in Belize that many Belizeans still support. Had we been serious about not wanting to do business with this man, we would have made this hard and fast decision a long time ago to change our numbers from Smart, to remove our accounts at Belize Bank, to not go to whatever businesses he owns to patronize them. But we're not.
But I think the fundamental issue is that we realize it's our Belizean people who are employed at these facilities and who make their daily bread from some of these entities as
So
well.
how then do you take a stand then?
So we kind of create this balance. But the way how you take a stand in particular is that we have to make our voices heard loud and clear, because not everybody want to have this discussion in its frank nature and call it how we see it. You know, most persons are kind of.
But I think, Troy, it goes back to what I say. It's your personal. It's your personal.
We play games with him because we think it works out to our own personal interests.
There we go.
And so if we remove that component and we realize that we want to be a little bit more nationalistic, then we need to call it out for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you made the point where the minister had made the point. I don't know if William has it yet. But the minister, yeah. Well, let's hear the minister before I say what I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
You want to air it, William?
That gentleman does not get into any business transaction for charity. He gets into business transactions to make a profit, and he does whatever is in his power and in his group's power to maximize that profit. So I would not describe any business deal or any transaction that he has ever proposed as charitable. Certainly, I think that there were many other external issues having to do with lawsuits, etc., that are coming. What we need to do as a government, and I will certainly be the first advocate of it, is we have to explain to the people exactly what these issues might be. That is most important. We have to be able to communicate. We have to be able to explain to them and to hear back the feedback when it comes to any of these issues. So as they come, then we have to be able to let the people know what's going on.
Okay. And so that has to be the position articulated, because if it is that we feel that we're not going to go ahead with this circumstance, it's a situation what he does. He put a gun to your head all the time. And so if you don't do it this way, then this is what is going to happen. I'm going to bring a lawsuit. So it creates this level of intimidation. But as a government, you have to be firm, because if you make a decision as cabinet, then you know that there are going to be some level of, not necessarily consequences is the right word, but there are going to be some level of repercussion, in a sense. But once people understand the circumstances, they can stand firm. What Dean Barrow did back in 2009, he softened up the Belizean public even when they got hit with that big bill. It took a while for people to consider that we got duped in the whole process, because the marketing campaign and the build-up and the vilification of the Ashcroft Alliance were extremely great. So it turned him into persona non grata in terms of the public domain. And I believe from an economical standpoint, it's never beneficial to us to have to be tied up dealing with lawsuits, and so it takes away energy and it costs money.
What is it with BTL? Because you remember, now that you mentioned Dean Barrow, you remember when Dean Barrow came into power, there was this whole fiasco that was happening with BTL again, talking about a secret deal, and Barrow kept on going in the House and going on the media talking about this secret deal under the PUP administration at the time, the accommodation agreement, right? And then here comes Barrow now with a meeting in Miami with Lord Ashcroft, right? And all of that, which was a part of his, that made him lose points because of that meeting with Ashcroft. And now here we're back again under a different administration. You had Musa, you had Barrow, now you have Briceño, and we still have this same fight with BTL at the middle. Like,
yes,
I don't know what's.
And again, it comes back to the point is that it's one of the most, as you put it, dominant business there is, and it's so overarching because it leads not only in technology, but it controls a lot of the issues surrounding businesses. You know, to move money, to do everything is built on the whole concept of telecom, concept of data, voice over internet protocol, and it's all interrelated. And so it becomes interwoven into our entire society and economy. So the fundamental issue here, we can't run away from the telecom business and the telecom industry. And it's not to say that it's unique only to Belize, but other small nations may well have the same problem from time to time. But when you have this sort of overarching individual involved in your domestic politics and economy, they tend to be so overpowering because they have money maybe more than your budget. And so they flaunt this kind of monies around, and they create this sort of circumstances which we have seen that can totally distract a government from moving forward. And not only that, there's a cost dealing with lawsuit, because when somebody sues you or somebody brings a charge, you have to defend yourself. What we saw with the Universal Health Services situation, when this matter was being litigated, the government took a position maybe out of hubris and didn't put up a defense. And eventually that came back and bit the government in the butt. And we end up with a situation where 20 million became $100+ million over a period of time because of interest and all of that accumulated. So we pay dearly when we don't put up a fight, and so we need to put up a fight if it is that we believe that we are doing the right thing. And as the minister said, then you give the information to the people. What was one of the downfall of this transaction was the secrecy.
I think it was the first
Was
round.
the lack of information.
The first round, it came across, it gave the Belizean people the impression that all of this that's happening is under the table, behind closed doors, the public not being privy to know what's happening. No. And I think that was what it started off badly. And in the second round, you see where they tried to put out more information, but by then it was...
Yeah, impressions were already formed.
Impressions were already made in minds that, this deal is too secretive, it's too this, it's too that. So when you came around the second time trying to put out information, it just wasn't really getting into the psyche, and then things just took a quick turn that you didn't have enough time to push out what you needed to push out.
Yeah.
Had they done that from the beginning, from the get-go, things could have probably turned out differently.
And then, when you look at all of the issues that happened subsequently, where the Public Utilities Commission had come out with a survey about BTL being the dominant provider, of course, did it in the effort to create the impression that we were already in this sort of almost monopoly position. But that was a reality that existed, that most persons knew existed from the onset. It never really required any effort and time. So I don't know if the SpeedNet release is saying to me anything new, and how is that a problem? If you're not the dominant provider because you haven't made the investment, you have to make the investment in order for you to be dominant. The issue is that you can't expect to be the dominant provider if you haven't made the level of investment. Now, if you want to pay to play now, you want to put in the investment and you want to elevate and win over more persons, because if you look over time, and I would dare say, I don't have any data to back that, but I would think that customers were moving back and forth between telephone companies, with BTL holding more customers than winning back and winning over more customers than Smart. And you had duplications where persons were having two phones, one for DJ and one for Smart as well.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you countenance that whole idea, and who do you want to blame for the fact that you are not dominant? Because remember, the BTL can take the same position to say, well, we want to have fair tendering and all of that, because some people believe that Smart got some preferential treatment too.
Oh, by the way, Smart did say that they're going to invest now to become a more robust company.
Let's go.
Also, the chairman, Mark Lizarraga, did issue a release, as well, indicating that, you know what, to employees, we're going to have to step up our game. You know, this is with the acquisition of the
Consumer
table.
wins.
Yeah.
Consumer wins. 3
So-
minutes after 8 o'clock, we take a break and we come right back.
Just another
Yes.
manic Monday.
And it's not a blue Monday. It's a nice sunny Monday. Had a very vicious rain yesterday, at least in my neck of the woods.
I think it was countrywide
Yeah, it was windy.
because
It's
it was
almost like
raining hard in Cayo too.
Yeah, and it was like hurricane breeze along with it. You know,
The weather was nice.
for a short period of time, but certainly, if you didn't have things nailed down properly or so, it would have been blown away. Like tents and those sort of things could have been affected because the wind was very gusty during that period of time. Somewhere around 4 p.m. ish yesterday afternoon.
So Troy, also one of the things that I did an interview last week with the Deputy Chief Transport Officer Peter Williams. I don't know if you had an opportunity to see some of the questions, but we spoke about training in terms of transport officers being trained. Remember, Cabinet had agreed for the hiring of a significant amount of transport officers. Apparently, they're still working on that. Some have been hired already. They're still in the process of doing interviews and what have you. And also, they're doing training with police officers, the inclusion of police officers, because, well, you know, they're the ones who essentially man highways. I think they're including customs as well, if I'm not mistaken. But two of the most important things that came up when we asked him if he can comment on whether he felt at any point that he was being pushed out of transport with the hiring or them looking to hire an assistant chief transport officer. And he declined to comment. He said, I would rather not comment on that. It leaves the door open for what's happening there at the Ministry of Transportation in terms of administration. And not only that, but there was also the issue, and I've heard this complaint on several occasions, whereby when the police has an investigation to do and it involves a vehicle, they don't have direct access to the vehicle registration database. Police. And so they have to go through a process to get that. So if it's weekend and they're trying to investigate a murder or a high-speed chase or something involving a vehicle, they have to wait until Monday to get that information from the Ministry of Transport. And that is if the ministry gives them on Monday. They can make the request on Monday, but how long will it take for them to get it? I think that it's a significant delay in investigations and a setback. And so I'm trying
Can't they
to...
be given permission to view only?
That's what I'm thinking. If they don't have to have, they should not, or they do not need access to edit or amend anything in the database, but to be just, like you said, a view-only version of the software so they can carry out their investigations. I think it's a setback for the police department. One person said to me when I was asking, so why is there not a direct connection or a direct link for police to have access to that? And one person said to me, well, the conversation had begun, but transport also wants a database of or access to police system in exchange. And I'm thinking, but why would transport
they
need
want?
access to police system, the SIMs or whatever? Why is that necessary for transport? I can see where police needs access to transport, but why would transport need access to their crime database? I didn't, the way it was explained to me, it was a power trip. And so for me, I'm not even getting into that, but the point that I'm making is that this interconnection is so lacking in the country, because I think that's what you need. You need
But
to
we-
have that
but when we have-
interconnection
we
to
have-
carry out your...
In terms of the importance, that should be glaring, because you have the chief executive officer as a former commissioner of police, so he would know well if that's a very relevant request from the police to be able to at least view only the vehicle records.
Well, that was my thought as well,
so
Troy.
I was saying that would not be a hard sell.
That was my thought as well.
In my view, so I'm just being very forthright in my thinking. The other issue that you brought up when they're hiring assistants are lower than a deputy. Peter Williams is a deputy, so everybody they're hiring is below his level. As to why he doesn't comment, you don't even want to get into that because that's not here nor there. If he has his feeling one way or the other, I can't get caught up with that, or vice versa. So I wouldn't comment on that because that's how his personal feeling is. But to put it in perspective, the deputy is always higher than the assistant. So the same thing happens with like customs. They have several assistant controller, but the deputies are higher. They would report then to deputies as opposed to the other way around. So those persons are not there to, in terms of the structure of the organization, Peter Williams is above an assistant chief.
But
the
question was not whether Peter Williams is above it or not. You know how the rumor mill
people
goes.
People are saying that these persons were coming in to kind of replace him.
But listen to me. You know how the rumor mill gonna be. Where there's smoke, there's fire, if they're not suddenly. So the rumor mill has been churning for a while now that they were trying to get rid of Peter Williams.
He's a public officer.
Has been, would that go for it anything?
Is that there's a process?
No, man, Troy.
There's a process.
Then they try to get rid of out Ministry of Transportation. Get transferred to another unit, right? That has been the rumor. Therefore, when the vacancy came up for an assistant, it was like saying, is this your first phase or first step towards that end?
But isn't multiple assistant they're hiring? It was more than one from the report.
Troy, you didn't look on it. I really wish you'd have listened to me. You know?
I'm listening to you, but you
You're looking
want to
at
follow the
system.
rumor, and I tell you,
No.
look at what's on the table.
You did look at system and how a system set up. I'm not stupid. I understand how the system set up. There's a
let's
process.
Talk about that first.
We understand that.
People
No, man.
understand that first.
But you have to understand that at the end of the day, I'm explaining to you because you want to come and tell me how an assistant work.
Right.
Like, I don't know how an assistant
but
work.
I want the public
make
to
I
know.
finish now, man.
Yeah, but you have to give me a break.
Make I finish because what I tell
Yeah,
you
but
is
you
that
want-
you want to know how
you
that
want
came
push
up.
the
I'm
rumor.
explaining to you how it came up.
All right, but
I'm
fine.
explaining to you why it came up. I'm explaining to you the genesis of it. Do you not understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I don't understand what you're saying. I don't
So the
understand you.
system is different than how the issue came up, where it came from.
Okay.
You understand? So it came from the fact that people from within the Ministry of Transport were saying that the powers that be are not happy with him. So when the vacancy came up now for an assistant chief transport officer, people who are ignorant to know the difference between a deputy and an assistant automatically began thinking that this is a step towards pushing Peter Williams out of the ministry.
Okay.
You understand me so far, Troy?
Okay.
All right.
That's the reason to explain.
So, but you know, they give me a break.
No, that's the reason to clarify why there's
So
a
anyway,
difference
so
in
because
strata.
there was that ignorance in terms of a difference between assistant and deputy, then the matter was pushed further. And so the question came about. What made it even more interesting, however, is that when they asked the CEO, Chester Williams, about it, the very same report of Peter Williams being pushed out, he said no. He said that Peter Williams is an asset to the ministry, and he explained the difference between a deputy and assistant, and he explained that they're hiring two assistants because you have the enforcement aspect of transportation and you have the administrative aspect of transportation. So you need two, right? So Chester explained all of that. Beautiful, wonderful. We got that out of the way. The question, however, was posed to Peter Williams himself now, right? To say, Peter, when these vacancies come out, did you at any point feel, right? That this was perhaps targeting you or pushing you out as was being reported, right? And any responsible media will try and look at all different angles. You understand? You as well, like call yourself pragmatic, want look upon it as one rumor.
I don't call myself,
I as
am.
one news reader, one news director, sorry, I have to look at all angles. So if somebody come and tell me that, that this house up on fire, 10 people dead, I have to go look into it. At that point, it's a rumor. It's a report, rumor/report, but I still have to go look into it.
Okay.
Because I can't come and report a rumor to the public. So that is what I'm trying to explain to you.
Yeah.
And so then when
And the wait
Peter
for
was
done,
asked...
the wait for done.
So when Peter...
Because I don't
But
agree with
you're not
everything
the
you say.
wait because you did interrupt me again.
No, but I
You're
tell
not
you
the
the
wait
wait.
because you interrupt me again.
You just repeat
You're
the
not
same
the wait
thing.
because you interrupt
Go
me
ahead,
again.
go ahead. Make a clear up afterwards.
Apparently, I have to explain to you like ABC,
No, man,
so that's
I
why I
have to
did
do the
this.
ABC treatment right now
So
afterwards.
when you ask, when the question was posed to Peter last week, he said, and this is what I'm telling you made it more interesting, was when he said, I would rather not comment about that. He didn't come right out to say, you know what? No. Understand that deputy and assistant, they're two different positions. I have never been given any indication that I'm not wanted at the Ministry of Transport or anything of that nature or to that degree. He generally said, I would rather not comment on that at this moment.
Okay.
And that was what made it more interesting, because then if there was not an issue, you would have come out and say, so and so and so and so. If you had that sense of job security then.
Well, having listened to all that you've said, I said earlier what Peter Williams said in terms of his personal view. I wouldn't comment because I can't be able to see what or feel how he's feeling. Peter Williams is a technical officer. They can't move Peter Williams just by any whim and fancy. He has to consent. He has to consent for any movement that will occur within the public service. I was trying to explain that to you and to the general public, that that's how the public service is set up. So whatever occurs within that particular department and his movement can't be done willy-nilly. He has to be able to consent, because he's not like any secretary or anybody that can be moved around so easily. He's a technical officer, and therefore he has a level of protection within that area. So that is for clarity. And that's why I went to the pains to explain the difference between the deputy and the assistants, because you're looking for technical people that will run these operations as you explained that the CEO did. So for me, if Peter Williams feel like, why within here, then they pressure me or whatever, that is a situation that he will have to endure, and he will have to be the one that says at some point in time, I want to go. Even though they may want him to go for argument's sake, if the rumor mill stands to be true, he will still have to consent to that. That has to be very clear in the minds of the Belizean people based on how the public service is set up, that there are some officers who have that technical skill that is built into that particular post. So he can't be just this. They can't decide today we want to move it from point A to point B and write the Ministry of Public Service and do transfer Peter Williams without him consenting. So that out of the way. Now, I don't have a problem with the two assistants being hired, because I believe that the Transport Department need to be more effective. We complain all the time about how we don't believe that they are on top of their game. We don't believe that they have the control of traffic throughout this country. And that's an area where we want them to step
Who,
up.
the ministry?
Yes, we complain about all the violations that continue to occur, and we don't believe that nobody is doing anything to nip that in the bud. And so you need that overarching support.
Now that you bring that up, that was one of the questions
He
I asked
needs
him last
support.
week. Because for me, it's like I have been traveling on the highways every weekend for the past 4 weekends, right? And I am yet to see a highway patrol. I've traveled on the Western Highway, the Northern Highway, and I have not seen not one single highway patrol vehicle on any of those highways, right? I've been out district for the 4 or 5 consecutive weekends. And I haven't seen that, but yet we saw them getting a fleet of vehicles a few weeks back, if I remember correctly. But I'm not seeing these vehicles patrolling the highways. I'm not seeing how are you doing that? What kind of monitoring or enforcement are you doing? Unless you're doing it on the southern highway. Because then that's the only one I have not traveled. But I've been on western and northern for 4 consecutive weekends.
And it's important to note that the important thing to be able to get the support, because the chief transport officer, the deputy, don't have enough support to spread around, because after that you don't really have any sort of managerial component. You go straight to maybe the transport officers and the transport officers and so what you need is actual technical supervision, both from an operational and administrative standpoint, which can start to do this level of scheduling and all of that, and to be able to force the enforcement that we are saying that is I'm lacking. But I'm being reminded that we have to find the level of compatibility between, because remember earlier you started with the issue of sharing data or access to data by the police. The fundamental issue is that the police and the transport, the Ministry of E-Governance is saying they have to find a compatible link so that they could link together, because apparently the two systems might be of different structure, so they have to find that integration. So that might be a limitation that has to be worked out.
But in the interim, can't they have access?
Well, the thing is, I don't know how it is that they can give them access. Based on what I'm being told, is that whether or not you can just get a view, I can give you a password to just get into the system, and whether or not the system has a limitation to give you maybe view only, and who would have access and all of that. But if you have an interface where I can log in from here and it will be able to link in there with the access in the format that the police may want to get it or so. I'm not quite sure, but I'm sure that's a discussion I would like to see happen, because I don't believe it's impossible. I believe we should be already there.
But Troy,
we should be there.
Exactly, but even if we have to wait on e-governance, or if we have to wait until the software is updated, there has to be a system in place in the interim that gives access to immediate information. Because an investigation into a vehicle, if you hunt down a vehicle of this particular, with this particular specs, with this particular license plate, these vehicles can jump the border.
Right.
You can call it, spray paint it, you could customize it, for kind of disguise it.
So the quicker
you get the information, the quicker your investigation can progress. So I'm saying, okay, fine, let's say e-governance or the whole software or whatever needs updating, then there has to be a system in the interim to be able to assist police or criminal investigations.
You see, we have to start to think a little bit more holistic, because we are still operating in silos, and everybody wants to protect their turf, even within government and within ministries, and that happens also in private sector. You know, newsroom got for them only say, maybe producers for other shows want to have. So I'm just doing that everybody tries to segment, and it's up to the senior management to kind of find that way to bring everybody together so that we work towards the good of everybody. If the information we believe is relevant to help the police in terms of some of their crime fighting mechanism, then we have to find that ways, even if we have to channel that through the Securities Council, so that overarching policy can be made for these sort of integration to occur, so there is more acceleration, that there's more speed put on these issues to get to that point.
You know, somebody texted me just now, they said it's not about not being able to have access, it's about territorial power plays.
Well, that is what I was saying. We operate in silos and want to protect
and
our
so
turf.
if you give up the database, what you're giving up your power? Your power to what?
No, but that's the point.
The ego tends to get in the way for a lot of things. Another person texted and said, how many duties does the Department of Transport have to go around for so many others? For there to be another deputy and 2 assistants, there has to be more work. Obviously, Peter Williams will have nothing to do at work. So this person is saying, essentially continues, it's an exclusion. It's a process to frustrate him out of the department for not have to go through the system. Like what you said, there's a process. So another way to do it informally is frustrate the person for make you want to go, right? So you're hiring these people to exclude him, to not give him anything to do.
Well-
but you know, like you could look on it past so many angles, you don't know what's happening internally.
Yeah, I look at it from the standpoint that we need enforcement. We get the calls here all the time about the violations on a consistent basis, and nobody seems to be looking, whether they're looking through a camera, whether they're looking through their windshield by park in some area conspicuously. We don't know. What I'm saying is that we need to be able to have wheels on the ground, boots on the ground, whichever way you want to put it. But we need to have presence, and we need to have presence in such a way that persons. But well, you want to take the call? You want to take it, Renee? But why would he call? But let's take a call. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Morning. Hello.
That's right.
Yeah, we're taking the call. Who's this?
Chester Williams.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said.
Oh, that's not who they told us was on the line. That's why I was a bit taken aback, like, why are we pushing through this call?
Yes.
Yes, good morning.
CEO.
Yes, good morning.
Yes, man.
I called to respond to some of what is being said on the show this morning
Okay.
in respect to transport. So, Ms. Renee, I avail myself to you to ask your question.
All right. Well, Renee, go first then.
So the first one would have been about the database in terms of transport, because like I mentioned earlier, we had gotten reports that that there's not that connection or that collaboration, immediate collaboration between transport and police when it comes to criminal investigations and wanting to identify vehicles that are suspected to be used in criminal activities. So the report that I had gotten is that, one, the police department had been requesting on multiple occasions to the transport department to get access to their database of vehicles, and they have been denied. And second of all, that there's
Let me
not...
answer that one first.
Okay,
Let
sure.
me answer that first. Let me make it emphatically clear that whatever information you have been fed is not true.
Okay.
Whenever the police request any information from transport pertinent to the identification of any vehicle involved in any criminal activity, transport department provides information to them immediately. As a matter of fact, sometimes police officers would contact me directly without following the proper protocols, and I still accommodate because I understand the nature of police investigation and the urgency with which those information may be needed. Secondly, transport department being the department that is responsible for taking in information pertinent to the registration of vehicles in this country, we have an obligation to make sure that the information we collect from the public is kept to a certain extent with certain degree of integrity, and that if we share those information, that it is shared for the right reasons. So what happened? Myself and the CEO in the Ministry of Home Affairs signed an MOU in respect to the sharing of information, because the same way how we want information from the police want information from us. And the police cannot give us information if they do not know what we're going to do with the information. And likewise, we will not give information if we do not know what the information is going to be used for. So the MOU between the Department of Transport and the Ministry of Home Affairs is for the exchange of information. So we at Transport want information in respect to traffic accidents, persons issued tickets, so that we can know what are the hotspots on the highways for us to do enforcement. And the police want information from us in respect to the database that houses vehicle registration. So having signed the MOU, the CEO from Home Affairs is supposed to get a computer. I just spoke to him again last week, and we discussed it further, and he is supposed to get a computer, and the computer will be given to transport to put the BMVAL database on that computer, and it will be housed, I believe, where the police camera room is, so linked to the camera system that the police has. So there is great collaboration between myself and the CEO of Home Affairs to make sure that this happens. It's just a matter of getting the proper logistics in place. The same way how immigration would receive information pertinent to passport, the immigration will not just share those information to any other department without a proper protocol in place to make sure that when information is shared, it is shared for the right reason. So it was just a matter of that. So there was nothing to say that we do not want to share with the police. That is not true.
Okay.
So that's the first question. Next question, please.
In terms of SEO, in terms of the issue of the two assistants being looked to be hired, the feeling is that it's not going to have enough work for the chief transport officer and the deputy chief transport officer. How would you answer that? Because I don't necessarily think that is so, but maybe there are persons who believe that is so. So how would you answer that?
I don't understand. You see, Troy, this is the thing, right?
Yeah.
Whenever we try to make meaningful progress in enhancing the level of service that we offer to the public, there are always going to be those who will resist or try to resist what is being done. No. We're not seeking to hire 2 assistants. We're seeking to hire 4 assistants, chief transport officer, to make it correct, right?
Okay.
And we have regions. We have the southern region, we have the western region, we have the northern region, and we have the eastern region, which is police district.
Okay.
So each assistant chief will be responsible for a region. So one assistant chief for St. Creek and Toledo district, one for the Cayo district, one for Orange Walk and Rosal district, and one for Belize district. So what are they going to do? They are going to ensure that there is proper supervision on the grounds to alleviate the pressing concern that the public has, that when they go to the transport office to get services from them, they are paying for a service that they are not receiving. How many times have we not heard people saying, I went to transport office in this that place, and I paid for my driver's license, and I don't get no driver's license. I was issued a receipt to go and drive with, or I couldn't get my license plate, I couldn't get my license sticker. We need this madness to come to an end.
Yeah.
So to have a person there to administrate, to make sure that all the service that the public is paying for, that the public gets the service that they're providing. When you go to a store to go and buy Troy, when you pay your money, you expect to get the goods that you paid for.
Absolutely.
And we expect that when you come to transport and you pay your money, you get what you pay for. So it is a matter of improving efficiency. This has nothing to do with the role and function of the chief and the deputy chief transport officers. Now, bear in mind that we're also expanding, right? We are in the process of hiring over 115 more transport officers across this country to make sure that there's greater enforcement on our highways to eliminate the amount of traffic accidents that we're having. So if we have more personnel, there's going to be need for more supervisors and even greater supervision. So at the end of the day, whoever we're hiring in supervisory positions are people who are going to ensure that the services that we're supposed to offer to the public is delivered in the most efficient and professional way possible. That is all that we're trying to do.
Okay.
Next question.
Okay. Yeah. So the actually it's four officers or 4 assistant chief. Is not 2 because 2 was the number I heard first. I mean, and so I'm just.
It's 4, Troy.
If it's 4, okay. Great. And then are there going to be still one deputy or are there going to be multiple deputies?
There is going to be 2 deputies.
Two.
One deputy will be in charge of operations, and
Okay.
one is going to be in charge of administration.
Okay, okay.
So again, the deputies are going to be there to ensure that they assist the chief transport officer in supervising the men and women of the department,
Okay.
as well as to make sure that the other services offered by the Department of Transport is carried through efficiently
Okay.
and effectively within a reasonable time.
And in the
What
case,
we want is to improve the service we're offering to the public.
Okay.
This mediocre service that we have been offering over the years needs to stop, and we're simply trying to do our best to improve that.
Well-
We believe
But-
that people deserve better,
but
and we want
still-
to give them better.
The mediocre service that we've been getting over the years, does it have to be improved by additional personnel, or can
Oh,
it not be
when
done
it-
by?
The transport department doesn't have the luxury of 1,000 men and women. The current strength of the transport department right now is 65 people. How do you expect them to do enforcement 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and still providing the other service that they offer, like issuance of registration, licensing of vehicle, issuance of driver's license? It is impossible. So we have to improve the manpower.
okay.
If we want to provide 24-hour service, that is done by shift in each district across the country. Each shift will need to have at least about 3 to 4 persons per shift. 3 to 4 persons per shift times 4 shifts a day has 16 persons to be able to run a 24-hour shift system, right? And then it's separate
Okay.
apart from that. You still need to have the persons who are going to be dealing with the admin of the office, those licensing clerk, the cashiers, the person who takes photographs for driver's license, the senior transport officer who is responsible to approve registrations and so forth, the motor vehicle inspector. So there are other complementary staff that must come with the work that the transport department does. So it is impossible for them to carry out the mandate that they have with just 65 people.
Yeah.
It is impossible.
How has it been determined yet? Like you said, you're going to have 2 deputies. The discussion came up with Peter Williams. Is there a determination which one of those areas he would lead, or is that is something that would still be in the works?
That is going to be something to be determined by the chief transport officer. He's the one who is responsible to assign his officers wherever he sees fit. So when the other deputy is hired, Mr. Gentle will be the one to determine who is going to be administration and who is going to be operation.
Okay. And in terms of the administration, is there any, what would be the overlapping or the issue, like, because you have an AO, no, an administrative officer, would that be was it a clash or a duplication or
No. The function of the AO is different, Mr. Gab. The AO deals with the office issues, administering the civilian staff, those who are non-transport officers.
Okay.
And apart from that, yes, she will also be responsible to channeling information coming from everybody within the station where she works to the transport headquarters in Benopan. So
Okay.
the functions of the AO is different than the functions of the deputy chief admin.
Okay, just to get some clarity.
It's just like when you
on
have
that.
police, right? Police has I think, 3 deputies, and they still have AOs. The functions of those deputies is different than the functions of the AO.
Yeah,
and
one
you'll
will be
find many
technical,
other
no?
departments that are like that.
Yeah, that would be more technical, and then the
Yes,
AO would
exactly.
be dealing with the
Yeah.
HR side and those sort of things. Good. And in terms of the overall timetable for you to feel where you're going to be able to have the number of personnel on the ground in terms of maybe these 4 assistant chief and the additional deputy and maybe the additional officers, what's the general timetable overall that you're thinking about or looking to
For this
obtain?
fiscal year, the Ministry of Finance had approved, Cabinet has approved the additional 150 officers.
Wow.
But even though Cabinet approves, it still has to go to Ministry of Public Service Job Classification Unit for the creation of those positions. Now, in the budget 2026-2027, the Ministry of Finance gave us funding for 50 of those officers. So in this year's budget, we have for 50.
Okay.
We have wrote the job classification unit, asking for the posts to be created. And once the posts are created, then it goes come back to us, we then apply to the public service and then to the Ministry of Finance to hire those personnel. So it's a process that we must go through, and we're in that process. We're supposed to meet tomorrow with the CEO in the Ministry of Public Service and the Data Service Management and the Director of Job Classification, so we can see how best we can accelerate these requests, because it is urgent that we get these officers on board.
Yeah.
You see the number of
accidents that happen.
we're having.
Yes.
Right, and we need to see what we can do to be able to help. The police is doing their part helping us, but again, we need to do more. But we cannot do more with the amount of manpower we have. So getting the additional people on board certainly is going to help us to reduce the loss of lives in our highways.
Yeah, because Renee was saying that she was moving up and down the highways, particularly west and north, and didn't see any presence of any sort of traffic control.
Please tell Renee to hear from me.
It's right here.
The position of deputy chief, one deputy chief is vacant. She can apply for that.
All I say is that you get one set of vehicles, and I know see no petrol on the highway.
When I say you not see a new car
That's
there on the
all
road,
I want to see a fancy car there on the highway.
you wait for
Renee,
drivers for them,
if
no?
you would have gone down south over the weekend, you'd have seen them doing.
South and never
But
gone.
I said that. I said I don't ordinarily go south, but north and west for the last 5 weekends.
You're missing out from the best part of the country, Renee.
That because you have friend down there and I want to go down there.
So that you create the band for her.
Because you have friend down there and I want to go down there.
No, but we certainly appreciate the clarity, and so we'll follow the issue, because of course, as you would know as an avid listener, that quite a number of complaints keep coming in, especially motorcycles, of course, coming into the airwaves.
But I think Chester will be on the morning show soon, right? Sometime this month.
Well, if you invite me, yes, I will go, certainly.
Yes, well, Renee will proceed to get the invitation out to you then.
And please make sure, when I go, that Renee is on the set. Okay?
All right. Well,
I was just about to say, please make sure it's not when I'm here.
But this love-hate relationship I can't deal with. But I appreciate the call. I know we've gone straight through our break, but nonetheless, I appreciate the call to get the level of clarity, so that we could start looking forward. At least during this fiscal year, there should be about 50 more officers employed, which would mean that we'll start to see a little bit more visibility in terms of the presence of the transport department. Would that be right to say?
Yeah, certainly. And again, I want to say that our ministry and the government is committed to doing as best as we can to make sure that traffic enforcement and traffic management across the country is carried out in the most efficient and professional way. Okay. Right? It is what the Belizean people deserve, and we want to make sure that they get what they deserve.
Okay.
It's as simple as that.
Well, thanks very much to you. Appreciate
no problem,
appreciate the call and the clarity. And I will leave you two to have your talk later.
Bye. Husband.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. It's 13 minutes to 9 o'clock. We'll take a quick break, and then we come right back and we wrap the show. it's now 9 minutes to 9 o'clock. Time surely flies, and we're almost on the last couple of minutes left in the show. Anything pressing that you didn't cover that you want us to discuss briefly?
Blaze and Beyond. Thanks for choosing that.
Not yet.
Oh, not
about
yet.
8 minutes away.
No. I'm good. I'm traveling on Thursday.
You are?
Yes, I'm traveling on Thursday.
Oh,
So
there you go.
I won't
Wrapping
be
up
with
your
you on Monday.
Your frequent flyer. Serious?
Yes.
Oh my, that's so sad. That's not good for viewers and listeners who look forward to you on Monday morning to revolutionize their
You
mind.
never sung sincere just now when you said that's so sad. You must song so fake.
It's so sad. I don't know how else I could say
You need
it.
to practice it some
Yeah,
more.
I need to practice
Be
my
more
sad,
convincing.
my sad feeling and my
Yeah.
sad statement.
I never feel it.
You don't feel it? Oh my. Well, maybe when I come on next Monday and you see me crying, then you'll get all convinced.
That will be
And so-
fake, though.
You think so?
Yes.
That's crocodile?
Yes, crocodile tears. But anyway, I'm just saying
No,
that
but-
to, know,
but
to
it- but
let
it-
you
but-
know
but it's
I
all-
won't be here on Monday.
Yeah, I believe that the discussions are very fruitful because it's an enlightenment to the Belizean people. But not only that, it's a way to start to kind of open the discussion in terms of looking at things from various angles. My way, your way may not be the way for everybody else, but at the end of the day, it makes it clear that we could look at things in various angles and we could deal with issues and discuss issues in a more fundamental
But
way.
Troy, you know what? I have to commend Chester, even though me and he always there at war. But I have to commend him on making the decision to call in this morning, because you and I talk about this all the time, every single week practically. We talk about how government does not get ahead of situations or stories or narratives, and then they leave it to fester and fester and fester till it get to a point where they have to then apply some level of damage control. By CEO Chester Williams calling into the show this morning to lend clarity to some of these issues that we're discussing, that's him getting ahead of the narrative. That's him saying, you know what, I understand this and this is what you're hearing. I understand this is what you've been reporting, but let me tell you what my side is from the CEO standpoint. And so when he does that now, it quells any rumor or reports. It slows down the rumor mill significantly.
Well, you get it from the horse's mouth.
Exactly.
kinda,
And so I'm saying that this is what we've been talking about for a long time in terms of getting ahead of the story, instead of waiting for all of this speculation to add up, all of these rumors to come about, and then when they fly like crazy, you want to try close the gate. And by then, in a lot of cases, it's too late to do that.
Yeah, indeed. And certainly, I commend that from that standpoint. And it created some sort of improvement on the information. For argument's sake, we're now... I thought it
So
was
I didn't know an MOU or an agreement was reached
Yes,
between the
yes.
CEO of police and the CEO of transport. I
transport.
didn't know that. I know that now. I can report that now.
Yes, and I didn't know there were 4 regional assistant chief.
I didn't know that either. I know that now.
And also clear up the concerns I had as it relates to whether there would be overlapping between the AO, who is an administrative officer, and the administrative side of transport, which it becomes a technical post, and then you deal with the administrative/HR component.
Of course,
and
because the
AO.
question of redundancy comes up,
Yeah.
and how
Whether
that
there's
would play out.
overlap and duplication. So all of that has become clear. There is another deputy that will be coming in to be able to, one for administration, one for operation, and how that division is going to be sorted out by the chief transport officer. So again, all of those things are
But
coming
I
from
must
an
admit-
official standpoint.
That seems to have been a change, because essentially there were only 2 assistants that were being looked
That's
at.
what I said, what I heard.
So that was what was reported. That was what he said. Chester said that. But there seems to have been some tweaking in terms of how they're going to carry it out, because now they're looking at the assistants for the regions, and they're looking at 2 deputies now, one for enforcement, one for administration, which kind of makes some sense for me. Because then if you're going to hire another deputy and assign one to administration, one to enforcement, then that's good. And then the assistants would be for the regions, the 4 regions. That
Yeah.
kind of makes sense to me in terms of a hierarchy. So yeah,
Yeah, because one of the things is, so if you have good supervision, you might get good outcome generally, because when you have good supervision, persons are going to be forced to perform their duties. And so if you have supervision on the ground, in the area where the enforcement is going on and where people are performing their duty, where you can be eyeballing the process, then chances are you'll get the outcome that you set out that you want. So
yeah.
again,
So thanks,
it's trying
Chester, for
to put that.
lending clarity to all of that and for informing us and educating us on that, because essentially that's what we're here for, Troy.
And
We're
you-
here to put out the information as accurate as
And-
possible. And
and you
so
can-
when an official calls in to tell you what's going on, then
And you have content now for your news. You
Well,
have some
that too,
content.
yes.
You have some content in terms of this particular issue being addressed. Of course, if it is that we could get him in, because we need to talk about some of the other things, how things have been progressing with the NBC and other components that are dealing as it relates to transport. We do know that they're dealing with the other issues, which is the Maya consent order and that sort of thing. But that's another part of the ministry that seemed to have its own life going on at this point in time. So certainly quite a lot going on in that particular ministry between all that the areas that they control and they're responsible for. But Renee, just very quickly coming back to the BTL issue, is that we need to be able to pay attention to what's going on. I agree with Minister Usher that I think the government has to be very succinctly clear in the way going forward, because there are going to be issues of where BTL is going to come under some legal attack. There are going to be some issue as it relates to the Public Utilities Commission. I think some of those concerns are already laid out in the SpeedNet release that they themselves would want to be looking at. And if there's resistance to the things that they are looking at, obviously that is going to end up possibly in the courts one way or the other. But it's always good for people to be fully engaged and fully involved to be able to make their own determination going forward. So I for one, continue to advise and encourage that you get ahead of the story. Don't be afraid of the truth, because at the end of the day, if it's the truth, it's the truth. You can't twist it no other way. And so I always believe in getting the information out. That saves me from speculating, save you from speculating, save the public from speculating, and then becoming cynical, because that's what started with the BTL issue. We handled it badly in the first instance, and then it became a sore that could not cure. And that's a problem that we have to use as a learning lesson for us, that if we have an issue and if we don't have all the information to put on the table, then we better wait until we get it all before we bring it to the forefront, because we already know what are going to be some of the pitfalls. Sometimes we know it, and these trial balloons from time to time doesn't help, because it creates a lot of adversary. Sometimes it costs you political capital, hopefully not too much in this case, but that for the ruling party. But at the end of the day, it does have impact on the psyche of the people. That's it for me, Renee.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with your permission, let me say thank you to Armin Ardana for doing a good job this morning and reading the news as well, and doing a great job as usual.
There, I have it pa. Video, I record it. It's here on Morning Show. I beat Troy. I Naka. Okay, just sickening.
Reading the news. And of course, you see that we have evidence. We have evidence of being assaulted.
Yes, I assaulted him.
Yes, indeed. And of course, we want to thank our master control operator, the lucky fellow William Usher, as well as our producer Rich and Manuela Ayuso, and Andrew Jones for streaming. And all of you, our viewers and listeners, short the length and breadth of this beautiful jewel of ours. I want to thank you for tuning in, as well as those streaming in the diaspora. We wish you all the best for today. If you're celebrating your birthday on the 17th day of August, we say happy birthday. Want to thank also CEO Williams for calling in and creating some clarity and adding some new information to the discussions that we were having as well. And we want to say, as usual, come back again tomorrow, where we hope to do this all over again just for you. And in addition, join us tonight, me and Daryl, where we will be airing another episode of The Business Hour, where it's business but not business as usual. And of course, we do know you have choices where you get your entertainment information and engagement from, and we're always glad and we're always grateful when you choose love. And because you choose love, we always say, Renee, Belize and beyond, thanks for choosing love. Have a great week.
Good
Bye-bye.
morning, Belize, and good morning. I say good morning, Belize, and good morning. And how are you this morning?
Wake up every morning, like go to work and get